Hello, and welcome to the Introduction to Python Programming course. And this is a two-credit course for SICSR. And as a two-credit course, I have to conduct 30 clock hours, that is 30-hour sessions for this course. So this is our first session, and today we are going to discuss all the basic concepts, the structure of the course, and a few definitions and something about Python. So this is the course outline. We have four important chapters. The first chapter, in first chapter we have topics like introduction to Python. Then we are going to discuss who has invented Python, what are the features of Python, benefits, drawbacks, and then how Python is an interpreted language, what is the difference between interpreter and compiler, and the interactive and non-interactive mode of the Python interpreter. In the second chapter, we will be discussing about Python scripting, then data types which are available in Python, different operators, their precedences and their bindings and their other details. Then something about control structures like conditional structures, looping structures. In chapter number 3, we are going to discuss about functions and modules. We'll be discussing standard modules, library functions, which are predefined functions which you can directly import and use. Then you can also write your own functions, defined functions. Then fourth chapter is about structured data types. So apart from normal data types, we can create our own data types like sequences, lists, and dictionaries. So we'll be discussing all these data types and their use cases also. So this is the overall course outline. This is the evaluation outline, as this is a two-credit course that is for 100 marks of evaluation, out of which 60 marks will be for internal evaluations and 40 marks will be for external evaluation. So this is my plan that out of 60 marks of internal evaluation, we'll have one assignment of 20 marks. Then I'll give one case study, some problem definition for which you have to find a solution using Python scripting for 20 marks. And at the end, we'll have a Viva for 20 marks. Where I'll ask a few questions regarding whatever concepts we are going to discuss throughout the course. At the end of the course, there will be a term end exam from the university, and that will be for 40 marks. So we'll start with the basic concepts. So computer. Computer is a device. Computer is a passive device. When I say passive device, that means computer itself don't have an intelligence. Whatever instructions we will provide to computer, computer will just follow those instructions. So if we tell computer that 5 plus 2 is equal to 7, every time it will calculate 5 plus 2 equal to 7. But if we tell computer 5 plus 2 is equal to 70, every time computer will compute 5 plus 2 equal to 70. So it's a passive device. So whatever instructions we are going to provide, the task of computer is to just follow those instructions, execute those instructions and give the output. So suppose you have covered some distance and now you want to calculate the average speed. So you know how much distance you have covered, you know in what time you have covered that distance, and now you want to calculate the average speed. So just by knowing this problem definition, computer automatically cannot calculate the average speed. So we have to feed the distance value, we have to feed the time value, and then we have to provide the instructions to calculate the average speed. For example, we have to first accept a number which is representing distance. Then we have to accept a number which is representing the travel time. And then we have to divide the distance with by time. And then the value of that division we have to store in the variable of speed. So that is how all the instructions are provided to computer, and then computer will just execute them. Now whatever you can see on the screen, the four instructions, we can call it as a program. It is a program to calculate the average speed. But this is not the final program, because this program cannot be understood by the computer as a device. In further slides, we are going to discuss different languages and different formats. But in this case, you can call this as a program, but this program is not understood by the computer as a hardware. So we need to convert this program into some language which is understood by the computers. And that is why we need to learn programming languages. So we can have logic ready with us. We can have list of instructions ready with us. We have to convert those instructions. We have to convert that logic, that program into a specific language which is understood by the computer as a hardware device. Now we'll talk about natural languages and programming languages. Now, what do you mean by natural languages? Natural languages are the languages like, for example, our mother tongue, which we use to express our thoughts. So language is a tool to express our thoughts. If you want to communicate, we use languages. Similarly, if you consider computer as a machine, even every machine will have its own language in which we have to communicate with that machine. So that is, we call it as machine readable language or machine language. And we have different types of machine languages. Like we can have a machine language which is understood by the hardware, a machine language which can be understood by the processors. So we have different types of machine languages, or we have different types of languages which are understood by the machine. So we have some low level languages like which are understood by the hardware, which is into ones and zeros, binary, hexadecimal. Then we have high level languages where we use English alphabets, English words, which are easy to understand for human beings also. So we have examples like C, C++, Java. All these are examples of high level language. Then we have some kind of scripting languages, like we have R, Python. So all these are scripting languages. So we need all these languages to communicate with computers, to give instructions to computers and to get some output, to get some operation done from the computer. Now, whenever we write any program, we need to first check whether that program is correct or not. Now, when I say we need to check whether that program is correct or not, we need to check whether the program's syntax is correct or not. Now, what is the meaning of syntax? Syntax means rules, how to write the instructions. There are certain rules which are specific to C as a language. There are specific rules which are specific to C++ as a language. Then we have different syntax for Java, different syntax for writing Python code. So every language comes with its own syntax, and we have to follow that syntax to write a code in that language. So first thing is, once we write the code, first we need to check whether we have done any mistake in writing that code. So while doing that, we can do this check in two ways. First is either by using compiler as a tool, or second is either by using interpreter as a tool. So compilation and interpretation. So if we use compiler, the process is called as compilation, and if we use interpreter, the process is called as interpretation. As you can see in the diagram, when I say compilation, we give complete source code as input to the compilation process. So compilation will take the complete source code, your program, as input, will go through each and every line, individual line, all the lines, and will check if there are any problems, any errors, any syntax errors at any lines. Suppose there are some problems at line number 2, line number 5, line number 7, line number 10. So we have 4 problems at line number 2, 5, 7, and 10. So complete compilation process will happen, and then you will get one common result that you have 4 errors in your program, and the errors are at line number 2, 5, 7, and 10. So then you can go back to the source code, and then you can check what are the problems, and then you can solve those problems, and again you can go for compilation process. So in case of compilation, the complete source code is checked at once, and the list of errors are given to you at the end of the compilation process. When we say interpretation, again the complete source code is given as input to interpretation, but what interpreter will do, interpreter will read your source code line by line. So interpreter will take the first line as input, will check if there are any problems, any syntax errors. If there are no, then it will go to the second line, it will check the second line. If there are no errors, it will go to the third line, and so on till the last line of the code. Now suppose interpreter finds any error at line number 4. So in case of interpreter, if there is any error at line number 4, it will not go to the line number 5. It will come out of the interpretation process. It will give you that error on the screen that there is some syntax error at line number 4, and it will stop the interpretation process there itself. So you have to go to line number 4, check the error, you have to correct the code, and again start the interpretation process from the line number 1. So the rest of the code has not been checked by interpreter because there was error at line number 4. So wherever interpreter will find the problem, interpreter will stop the process of interpretation and it will come out of the process. So that is the main difference between compilation and interpretation. Python is an interpreted language. Python is an interpreted language. That means Python uses interpreter internally. So whatever code you will write, line by line, interpreter will check the code, and if there are any problems at that line itself, it will come out of the interpretation process. Another benefit of interpretation, or another important thing about interpretation, is if there is no problem in line number 1, before going to line number 2, it will also execute line number 1. So if there is any print command, for example, if you are trying to display something on the screen in line number 1, it will display that output on the screen, and then it will go for interpretation of line number 2, and so on. So parallelly, it is checking for the errors line by line, as well as it is also executing the correct commands. If there are no errors, it is also executing those lines of codes. So in terms of working with compilers and interpreters, we'll discuss the advantages and disadvantages of compilation as a process and interpretation as a process. In case of compilation, the execution is usually faster than interpretation. So interpreter is slow because it goes line by line, and then if there is any error, then it will come out of that interpretation process. Then only the user has to have the compiler. The end user may use the code without it. That means after compilation, the end product of the compilation is the executable file. So once the compilation process is complete, one executable file is created as output. So even if you go to second machine, another machine with that executable file, and even if you don't have that language, suppose Python, installed on that machine, still you can execute that code if you have executable file. But interpretation is not like that. In case of interpretation, you have to have interpreter installed on the second computer also if you want to execute your code. So these are kind of differences between compilation and interpretation. Python was created by Rossum. He was from Netherlands, and it is not like the complete Python as a programming language was evolved or developed by Rossum himself. Python is an open source language. So whatever Python features or library functions are available today, it is the result of the continuous work of thousands of programmers all over the world, different testers and users of the code. And all of these programmers and testers and users, on daily basis, they are trying to evolve some new function, some new library function, some new feature, and they are trying to add their own logic into the knowledge of Python. And that is how Python is available today. Python is easy to learn. The time needed to learn Python is very short compared to many other languages. So you just need to learn the basic syntax of Python, and it is very easy to start writing the codes into Python. It is also very easy to teach also, because more focus is on language independent programming techniques. It is very easy to use. You have to just install the Python, and you can start writing your own scripts in Python. It is very easy to understand because it uses very basic functions, basic operators, and all basic names in English. It is very easy for someone to learn Python, to understand Python. And it is very easy to obtain, install, and deploy, as it is open source. It is easily available on internet. You can download the Python and you can start using Python scripts. Python has two direct competitors. First is Perl and second is Ruby. Perl is a scripting language originally authored by Larry Wall, and Ruby is a scripting language originally authored by Mustomov. The former is more traditional. The Perl language is more traditional, more conservative than Python, and resembles some of the good old languages like C programming. Ruby is more innovative and more full of fresh ideas than Python. Python itself lies somewhere between these two, between Perl and Ruby. The internet is full of forums with infinite discussions on the superiority of one of these three over the others. But every language has its own plus and minus. There are certain positive things about Perl, there are certain positive things about Ruby, and there are certain positive things about Python. It depends on what kind of problem you are solving and what kind of environment you are working in. You have to choose correct scripting language, either Perl, Ruby, or Python. Now, when I say Python, there are two kinds of Python. First is Python 2 and second is Python 3. Python 2 is an older version of the original Python, and its development has since been intentionally stalled, although that doesn't mean that there are no updates on it. But still there are some programmers who are still using Python 2. But the current developed version and the current version which is in use is Python 3. Python 3 is the newer, to be precise, the current version of the language, and it's going through its own evolution path, and it is creating its own standards and habits. So if you are modifying an old existing Python solution, then it is highly likely that it is coded in Python 2. And this is the reason why Python 2 is still in use. There are too many existing Python 2 applications which are running right now. If you are going to start a new project, you should use Python 3. And this is the version of Python that will be used during this course also. All these scripting definitions and all the features of this Python are maintained by the group which is called as Python Software Foundation, or PSF. It's a community which is maintaining all these Python versions and their features. The founder of Python, which is Mr. Rossum, he used C programming, the C language, to implement the very first version of this language, Python scripting language. And that's why the first version was also referred as C Python. And this was most influential Python among all the Pythons which are available in the world. The name was C Python. So before going for Python installation, we'll try to get some basic information and some answers for these questions. So what is Python? Python is a popular programming language, and it was created by Guido van Rossum, and it was released in 1991. It can be used for website development, it can be used for server-side development, software development, it can be used for mathematical problem solving and system scripting. Now what can Python do? Python can be used on a server to create web applications. Python can be used alongside software to create workflows. Python can connect to database systems. It can also read and modify the files. Python can be used to handle big data and perform complex mathematical operations. Python can be used for rapid prototyping and for production-ready software development also. So this is what all Python can do. Now, why Python? Python works on different platforms, different operating systems. Like it can work on Windows, Mac, Linux. It can even work on Raspberry Pi. So you can consider, if you know Python, then you can easily start working in the field of cybersecurity, IoT, or in the field of machine learning, robotics. Python has a simple syntax similar to English language. Python has syntax that allows developers to write programs with very few lines than some other programming languages. Python runs on an interpreter system, meaning that code can be executed as soon as it is written. This means that prototyping can be done very quickly. Python can be treated in a procedural way, an object-oriented way or functional way also. There are some good things to know about Python. The most recent major version of Python, which is Python 3, which we will be using in our course during the course. But even Python 2 is also very popular. Python 2, although not being updated with anything other than security updates, is still quite popular because all the old systems, all the old programs, old applications are still in Python 2. We'll be using, we can use multiple types of text editors, we can use multiple types of IDEs to run Python. We'll be using Jupyter Notebook in this course. Python was designed for better readability and has some similarities to the English language with influence for mathematical operations. Python uses new lines to complete a command as opposed to other programming languages which often uses semicolons or parentheses. Python relies on indentation using white spaces to define scope, such as the scope of loops, functions, and classes. Other programming languages use curly brackets for this purpose. So these are the basic differences which we'll be talking in more details as we go ahead with all the operators and how to write the if condition statements and looping statements and everything else. So this is a kind of summary of introduction of Python. Now we'll talk about how to install Python. So if you are a Linux user, Linux users most probably have Python already installed. This is the most likely scenario as Python's infrastructure is intensively used by the Linux operating system components. So if you are a Linux user, open the terminal or console and just type Python 3. At the shell prompt, you have to press enter after typing Python 3. And then if you are going to get some output, which I have shown on this slide, something like Python and then the version number, currently suppose it is 3.4.5 or something else, and some other information, that means Python is installed on your machine. So this is for Linux users. For all non-Linux users, you can download a copy of Python at the given URL. I have given the URL. It is python.org/downloads. If you go to this URL, you will find the latest version of the Python. Right now 3.8.2 is going on. You can download that version as per your operating system. It will give different packages for Windows, Linux, Mac, and other operating systems. Once you will download, then you have to run that executable file, which will start installing the Python. Now that you have installed Python, it's time to check if it is working. So Python 3 standard installation contains a very simple and extremely useful application named IDLE, which stands for Integrated Development and Learning Experience. So just navigate through your operating system menu bar and you will find one option called as IDLE under Python 3.x. Just launch it and you will find the shell prompt. On that shell prompt, you can just type print into bracket hello, which I have written the code here. Print is used to display something on the screen in Python. Syntax is into bracket, into double quotes. You have to give whatever string you want to display on the screen. So I'm writing hello. At the end, if you press enter, it is displaying hello on the screen. This is the output. So this is my Python code and this is the output of my Python code. And yes, you have written your first Python code. So it's a simple way to check whether the Python has been installed correctly on your machine or not. In this course, we are going to use Anaconda. I'll show a different video about Anaconda. You have to install the Anaconda Python, and once you will install the Anaconda Python, then you have to launch the Anaconda navigation application, Anaconda Navigator, and in that navigator, then we'll start working on different features of Python. This is the Anaconda Navigator, and you can see different environments are available in this navigator. Like we have Jupyter Lab, Jupyter Notebook, PowerShell Prompt, Qt Console, Spider, RStudio, and a lot of other things are also available. So this is a complete package where you can do a lot of other things using Python and even R. So with over 20 million users worldwide, the open source individual edition distribution of this Anaconda is the easiest way to perform all the data science and machine learning related codes on a single machine. It is developed for solo practitioners, so we can use this Anaconda navigation and all its features for this course. And it is a toolkit that equips you to work with thousands of open source packages and libraries, which are predefined functions. So you can build machine learning models. So it supports Jupyter, SciPy, Spider, NumPy. Then it also supports Pandas, Numba, TensorFlow, Conda, Matplotlib, HoloViews, and a lot of other things. So that is the strength of this Anaconda. It is the open source community at your fingerprints with Anaconda Individual Edition. The open source world is at your fingertips. From robotics to data visualization, you can access a lot of open source softwares which you need to use for your projects in any field. Anaconda Navigator is a desktop GUI that comes with Anaconda Individual Edition, and it makes it easy to launch applications and manage packages and environments without using command line commands. So generally people are more comfortable with GUI functioning than command line functioning. So this is all about Anaconda, and we'll be using this Anaconda throughout our course. In our course, we'll be using Jupyter Notebook. So I'll just launch this Jupyter Notebook and I'll show you how to use this Jupyter Notebook. So I'll click on launch here. So what you have to do is you have to download this Anaconda Python, and then you have to launch the Anaconda Navigator application, and that application will open this desktop, and then you can click on Jupyter Notebook to start running your Python codes. So I'll just launch the Jupyter Notebook. I'll tell you meaning and uses of other features as we go ahead in the course, but right now we'll be using Jupyter Notebook in our course. So once we launch the Jupyter Notebook, it will open this Jupyter Notebook in a web browser where you can have all your projects and everything. As we are just starting with Jupyter Notebook, I'll start with a fresh project, new project. So I have to click on new, and I'll create a new Python 3 notebook. So click on Python 3. It will create a new notebook with Python 3. So I'll click on Python 3, and now it is showing me untitled Jupyter Notebook, which is enabled for Python 3 scripting. So I have to save this notebook. So I'll just click on File, and I'll click on Save As, and I'll write session 1 codes, and I'll save this file. So this file has been saved as session 1 codes. Now you can see the name has been changed from untitled to session 1 codes, Jupyter Notebook. And now this is a command prompt where you can write the Python script. And as we have discussed, to check whether the Python 3 is installed or not, we can write a print command. So print, syntax is into brackets, into double quotes. So you have to give the message, say hello. So once you write the command, you can find one button called as run. So just click on the button and you will see the output. So it has executed our instruction to print hello on the screen, and we have the output hello on the screen. So whatever script you will write, it can be multi-line also. Say for example, if I write print and hello, and then if I have to write print into double quotes my first Python code, and then if you run this code, it will print both the lines. So this is the Jupyter Notebook which we are going to use throughout our course, and we'll write different codes, code segments and scripts, and we'll execute our scripts and test our output. So this is what you have to do. You have to install Anaconda, you have to launch Anaconda Navigator, and then you have to launch Jupyter Notebook, and then you can create multiple sessions in Jupyter Notebook. So that's it for session number 1, where we have discussed fundamentals of programming, compilation and interpreters difference and some basics about Python and how to install Python in terms of Linux and Windows. Thank you.